Well, welcome everyone to Power Hour. It is September, and this is Tessa, and I'm coming to you from Indiana. And you will see Megan here in the second half. She is out in Washington State. And so tonight in Power Hour, we're going to do 2 layouts in 1 hour. And I think tonight we might get through them both in 1 hour. We'll see. The past couple months we've been pushing 90 minutes or so, but I glimpsed at Megan's, and I think she's actually on track tonight. We'll see if she's feeling good about it or not. I will tell you this though, I will be exiting at 9 or just after, so I do have to go pick up Campbell tonight, but Megan will close it out for us. So we will flip down to my tabletop. And so the inspiration for tonight's layout that I did is, I don't know about you guys, but especially in the day and age of iPhone photos, sometimes I end up with a series of vertical photos. And I feel like vertical photos sometimes can be a challenge to lay out if you don't want to crop a lot. And these photos actually did not come off a phone. It's 2013, back in the day of a real camera. But they were beach photos, and so I did not want to crop them down a lot. I kind of wanted to maintain the feel of the beachy photos, but other than like a 3 across layout, it's kind of an awkward layout at times. And so I decided to do this waterfall layering a little bit. It's nothing fancy, it's pretty quick. These layouts will come together pretty quickly. So what did I use? I chose 2 base papers. I'm using Vintage Chic, which is from the Old Creative Memories. It's a pretty old collection, but I've been saving it for these photos. You can see the kids were wearing orange, and they had this purplish, Campbell purplish and green. And the Vintage Chic has this purple and orange and a light blue, which I thought went really well with these photos. So I knew I wanted to go back and check my hoard. So the other elements of the page are just 4 4x6 mats. You can use variety mats with these, or you can cut down paper if you don't have mats to work. I used 3 mats and paper for this one. And the second set I'm going to do, you'll see I'm using 2 mats and 2 paper. And then you'll want a sheet of 12 by 12 paper that we're going to cut into 4x6 mats. So these are all 4x6 mats, and I trimmed the photos slightly down about a 1/4 inch off 2 sides to mat directly on my 4x6. I think you'll see, Megan, I use 4x6 mats a lot. It's just easy. Usually you can cut your photos down to make them work. So pretty basic supplies for tonight. So for tonight's layout, I'm actually going to do the same things, the same collection. I have 4 kids, so this layout tonight will be for Cooper, for his book. And when I do books for my kids, they tend to get kind of a snapshot. So my family book has all the photos from the trip. Their books kind of get a snapshot. I still had 2 sheets of the blue. This is an embossed cardstock with Vintage Chic. I chose orange again for my mats. This is a paper that came out of Vintage Chic, but it is orange. And then for the mats, I went through the variety of mats and I found 2. So when you're choosing mats or choosing paper, if you are going to follow the waterfall, which on this layout, you can also do horizontal. You could do it with 6 photos as long as they're all the same orientation. I'm looking at your layering a little bit. So you can turn this if needed for your photos. So for my mats, for the layering, you do have to think about how your photos are going to lay out, because when you choose your mats, you're seeing corners of your mats, right? And so when you think about placement, I chose 2 mats. I had this one, so this is a Good Life. And once this gets layered under, I'm probably going to want to put it up here in this corner, because part of this mat's going to get covered by this photo, right? So it could also go down here, but it could not go up here or go down here. And then I chose this one. It has a journaling box on it. Again, when I layer this, I can layer on this corner of it. So I could put it up here or down here. And then I'm going to just use paper. I'm going to cut 2 4x6 mats out of a paper, a printed paper that kind of ties together the colors in this collection. And then I have some accent papers to use for punches. So one thing that I'm going to use with variety mats, sometimes they're kind of plain, or maybe I want to add a little bit of element to this layout. It's a beachy layout, but there was nothing specifically beach themed in Vintage Chic, right? And so I don't know how well you can see it on the camera. Hopefully you can see it on the layout. As I punched this neutral paper I brought out 2 of my border punchers and basically decorated my mats a little bit. It adds some texture. It's real neutral. Hopefully you can see it. And this one, it has wheat fields. But in person, it adds some texture, it adds some design, but it's not overpowering. It's not the first thing you see on the layout. And so I'm going to use the neutral paper again to punch borders to put on my mats. And it kind of gives me the design focus of it. So I'm going to start with my trimmer. I'm going to go ahead and start by cutting down the 4x6 mat. So I want 6 of them. So it's going to take the full sheet to do 4x6. So pretty simple cuts. Make sure you have your straight blade in. If you don't have photos yet, that's fine. You could go ahead and make this layout. I would still make the mats. And when you go to use it with your photos, you're going to want to make sure you're using, like I said, just all 6 vertical or 6 horizontal. I have my paper here. I'm going to cut down 2 more 4x6 mats. And that's all I really need for the trimmer right now. So I'm going to go ahead and punch 2 borders. So if I punch 2 12-inch borders and cut them in half, it will give me 4 6-inch pieces that I can layer on my mats. I decided to stick with what I used before. So I did pull out 2 punches. These are both hard to find. I didn't mean to tease you, but these are the kind of layouts that I collect my promo punches for, right? You know, they're we all have things in our collection, right? So this first one is tidal waves. I wanted a wave border. We've had several border makers over time, but some of them are chain style and some of them are an edger style. I chose the tidal waves because it is a little bit bigger of a design. Our border punches, which are the freestanding ones like I'm using right now, tend to be bigger designs than our border maker cartridges. And it was a chain style. If you don't want to punch, or maybe you have some laser borders, this would be an easy layout also to do with laser borders. Just pick 2 laser borders and cut them in half. So that's my first border. And then as I was moving on, like I really wanted to use wheat fields. Wheat fields isn't very common use in my punches. I think it reminds me of the grasses along the beach, but I was like, you know, what am I going to do to kind of give myself the same chain feel? And it occurred to me that if you look at the tidal wave, it has basically this reverse scallop edger on the bottom. And so I thought, you know what, I can do the same thing with my scallop blade and turn this edger punch into a chain style. And it won't have just that straight across cut that a lot of times we do when we're doing the edger one. It seems so obvious, but I don't know why I've never thought about using the decorative blades to make my borders chain style if they don't come that way. So for those of you new to Power Hour or you're new to Creative Memories, I've said a couple of terms now, one of them being chain style. And that means that when the border punches, it punches out clean. It's freestanding like this one is. This one we consider an edger. It stays on the edge of whatever I'm punching it on. So I can either use that whole sheet or else I need to cut it off. And you can cut it off and just do a straight cut and it's fine. But sometimes, like today, I was like, well, if I use my scallop blade, I can add a little bit extra dimension. So I'm going to do the scallop one again. Did you guys do the worldwide virtual crop last week? I know some people follow that. And if you follow Meggan, she's always doing the sketches and designs for that. Well, I did the layout for the very first layout, and I did a little bit of a technique video, and I did talk about the scallop blade and how I always orient it in my trimmer the same way so that I know the scallop's going to be on the outside. However, for today, I actually know that I want the reverse. I want the reverse side of that scallop on my border. I'm going to put my blade in opposite how I usually do. And I'm going to give myself a little bit of an edge down that border chain. I don't know if I can hold it. I might have to flip this down, do it that way. I'll let myself hang off. And so usually my scallop, this is the edge of the scallop that I'm going for, but I wanted the reverse of that on my border. So before I cut, I can go ahead and cut my borders in half. You can use scissors and just, or you can use your trimmer, or you can wait until you know you're going to adhere them to your mats. And sometimes that's what I do. I go ahead and adhere half of it and then I just cut it off at that 6 inches. So here's the 4 mats that I will be using. And I know that I want something to go across here and I want something to go across here, and then I will place what's left on those. Have a little bit more space on that one. I'll do the wheat builds on the blue. And you'll want to use repositional tape. I'll move it around. I'm going to hear that on here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and cut it at the edge. And that leaves me a piece to use on one of these. Put tape on this one. Let your borders off. I'm going to wait to adhere these to see how they overlap on my layout before I decide the placement of these. If you're joining us late, you can also always follow the directions down the handout. I'm going to grab my base papers. And I'll have to decide where I want to place my mats and where I want to place my photos. So I'm going to waterfall again down each direction. I have a couple of group photos. I have 2 of him with Emerson. And then I have 2 of them that show his personality a little bit. So on this photo, and I went to print it, I don't know who took this, but it is off center, right? He's hanging off the edge of this photo. And I decided I actually wanted to go ahead and use it. I really like the stand. And I really like how it showed his personality at the time, which was, I'm sure, just rolling around, having a great time. So I know that when I overlap this photo, I'm going to want to overlap it up here, which is going to help me determine where to place my photos. I know I want this one down here in the corner. I can have him here in the middle playing with the water. One of the group layouts up here. And I'm going to need to trim each of my photos down. These are all 4x6s. I want them to fit on the 4x6 mat. So I need to cut 1/4 inch off 2 sides, off the short side and off the long side. And then so now that I know where I'm going to put them, I can kind of look at the photo and determine where I want to lose that extra 1/4 inch. As you know, if you follow me, I use the old blue trimmer for my photos because I love it. You can see my 1/4 inch line right there. I'm going to go through each of these and cut off 1/4 inch off 2 sides. I printed these tonight with my Epson Picture Mate. The common question we get in the ideas group is, what do you use to print at home? And for me, I like to follow what Meggan does because she makes great decisions and she knows a lot about pictures. And so she has Epson Picture Mate, so I bought the Epson Picture Mate. I've been pretty happy with it. I did a video of my little box opening, which is on our YouTube if you want to see it. And I do think the quality is better than running the CVS. So I don't use it for every photo. I still print online. But like for tonight, when I wanted to go pull a few more of these photos out, just I'm at a crop and I missed one or whatever, I do like having it available. So I've cut all my photos down. I've taken 1/4 inch off of 2 sides. So now I can put them on my mat. When I adhere them on my mat, I do want to be cognizant of where they're going to overlap on the waterfall. And I don't want to put tape on that side. So like on this one, this is where this is going to overlap down. So I'm just going to put tape on the other 3 sides. And adhere it to my mat. You don't have to layer them. You can, through the mat, you can just do it normally. I can show you how that looks also. And then the bottom one, whichever one you have in the bottom corner, you can put tape on all 4 corners because it's not going to overlap. I do print these. So there's an app on my phone. So I sent these from the app on my phone to the printer. The pictures actually were on my computer. And so I put them up on my iCloud, and from iCloud, I pulled them to my phone to send on the app.
For those who are curious, you can print directly from your computer to the printer if you want. It has a USB printer connection. So if you are comfortable printing from your computer to the printer, it will work.
Our YouTube channel is Meggan Tessa. You can search us on Facebook. Meggan has her own channel also. So now I'm going to look through here and think, okay, I need to determine where I want to adhere the remaining borders on my overlap. And for both of them, it looks like I just want to go right there along the top of the paper. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere these. I don't know how many times I've been at a retreat and I'm like working on something. I'm like, wait a minute, where's that photo? And I'll like have either lost it or print it, or maybe I changed my mind. So now I like to travel with a portable printer. Okay, so now I have all of my pieces My photos are ready and I'm ready to start to work on adhering these down. I'm going to use regular tape. I'm using Creative Memories tape runner. So if you see me use the regular tape runner, that's what I use for the photos. That's what I'm going to use for everything down the paper. For the borders, I used repositional. They're little sticky dots and they only will stick on some of the intricate pieces. So I'm working down here. I'm a messy table girl. I have bad habits when it comes to repo. It will rub off of whatever it gets on. So if I have, see down here, I don't know if you can see the tape. Whatever I put it on, I can rub all of the extra off. So it's really great for the borders. Okay, so now I need to start by adhering. Now, if you have an eye for design, or maybe you have an idea of how far you want to space your photos out, you want to have a sense of what kind of border margin you want top and bottom. I determined on mine that I'm going about 7/8 of an inch down and about 3/4 inch from the edge. And I know 7/8 are like, why not an inch? And at the end of the day, I was kind of looking at the spacing I had at the time. So you can do, basic 1-inch measurements if you want. So I'm going to work on my 13 by 13 mat because I have my ruler across the top and the bottom. This is a T ruler that Megan and I use all the time. We do have the Amazon link on our website. They're like $5. I love them because it will hold against the edge of the mat when I'm lining things up. And I'm going to start in the top corner with my top photo. So I'm going to go ahead and put adhesive. Let me show you where we're going to overlap. So how this is going to waterfall is I'm going to stick these photos in like this as I go down. And so what the effect it's going to give me is like the photo is kind of waterfall. It shows the matted edge. If you don't want to do the waterfall look, you can overlap your color. It just covers up a little bit more of your photo. So I liked doing it without the mat so I could see more of the photo as I go. So I want 7/8 of an inch up here. I'll be a little bit slow to start because I can't be on top of my layout standing up being on camera, but that's about 7/8. And I have about 3/4. I'm going to put my pieces on. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do my bottom mat. I'm going to go ahead and follow this line all the way down here because I have my ruler. I can see my 7/8 inch line underneath my ruler. Line up that edge. Now I'm going to work my way around. I'm going to leave the center photo for last. I'll do my top mat. The T ruler is on Amazon. We have the link pinned to the top of our Facebook group, and on our webpage, we have a list of our favorite things. I suggested on the handout that you actually wait to adhere your middle photo until you do both layouts, because you may want to center this a little higher, a little lower on one side. And for symmetry, I wanted to do it the same on both sides. For those of you like symmetry, it's a pretty eye-pleasing layout. So now that I'm down to my middle photos, I'm looking, I'm like, okay. This one could overlap any amount, right? Over here, I don't want to get too far up. I kind of want to center this, but I don't want to cover up its face down here. So I need to be probably about right here. So I can grab my ruler and I'm like, okay, where am I? I'm at about 1, 2, 3/4 down. I'm going to stick this up in here. I tilt it a little bit. It's usually when I do this, I stand up. So don't, but if you stand up, stand up. So I have 1, 2, 3/4. So I can go over here, the same 2 3/4. No, I need to adhere my mat up here. And then I was about 8 1/4 over there. There we go. That gives me the crux of my layout. So then I would just be ready for a little bit of embellishment or titles. I want to show you a couple of quick tips real quick before I give you over to Meggan. If you note my handout, sometimes Creative Memories actually doesn't have every punch that we want to have. And we linked this to Amazon here, but this is a brand called Punch Bunch. They look exactly like some of our little mini punches, right? And this was a shell that they had. And so I knew I wanted to have a little bit of accent here. Like I said, this does not come with any beachy embellishments. I wanted to punch the shell. I was like, well, how can I add a little bit of texture to my shell, or even the darker ones? And I thought, you know what, I could try the chalking pens. So Creative Memories has had 2 chalking pens. We have the blue one and the white one. A lot of people aren't familiar with them, but they have 2 tips. One's a little bit wider than the other. And I was like, well, the white one would be good to put on the darker shells. I use the fat end. The white one will go on pretty clear. You're not going to see it. It's going to take a few minutes for the white to actually show up. You also use them to add embellishment to any other layout, any other punch. I mean. And then what I noticed with the blue one is that the fat end gave me a little bit different of a color than the light end. So I will put both on here. So this is the fat. You can see where it goes on. When it dries, it is going to be a little bit milky. When I use the fine tip, I thought was interesting. You do get a little bit brighter. It's almost like a real pen. It did not feel like chalking to me, even by the time that it dried. So if you do get the chalking pens to play with, you might just get some dark or light paper, whichever it may be, and play with them. You can see on the shell, it's kind of like one of those magic pens where you have to wait a minute to let the ink show up. But I thought that the white chalking was a nice accent for the shell. So we linked on my handout, I linked the Amazon QR code there too. There are a few punches on there that look the same as ours that were fun to play with. So that is my layout. I know that you've been asking your questions in the chat. If anything comes up, feel free to put it in there. And I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with for your waterfall photos. All right, Megan. I went over my time.
So I think what's interesting is you have done single page layouts for the past few power hours. So as even the simplest layouts, when you go to do a 2-pager, it takes a little bit longer. So that definitely is one of the things to consider.
That is a solid defense on your end.
That's solid
Mostly
defense.
I always do 2-page layouts. I get by with, I get to rag on you all the time because I only have 1 page.
Yeah. So this time I'm going to show you a single page. I actually thought I would take it into a double page, but the photos I found work perfect for a 1 page. I actually already have something that's going to go next to it, and I'll explain that all to you. But I'm Meggan Jax out here in Washington State. And so it's been, thankfully the weather cleared up for us. We were really smoky over the weekend, pretty terrible weather out, or, air quality out here in the West. I'm switching over to my table so you guys can see my layout here. So, I showed you the single page version, but obviously you can take this into a double page. So I went ahead and did make the second page to give you guys that idea. This arrangement, I've shown this kind of concept before, where you do something decorative in the opposing corners. You can switch it around and it could be like such. You can come like that. Lots of ways that you can use those the borders, but this was all about simplicity here. So that is what we're doing. And I'm doing just a single page. I'm going to be sticking with the pinwheel layout. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the little center detail. I think my photos are slightly bigger and I don't have quite as much space in that middle section, but we'll see once we get it all together. So the photos that I have are from my youngest child, Cody, had a art night at his school. And so they had kind of like an open house in the spring. So we have these photos that the art teacher did black light projects. So the photos are lovely, right? Because you're trying to take a picture in the black light, but they have these fun projects there. We went to it after a baseball game. So Cody's kind of funny. He's wearing his baseball uniform. And, but they had these, so I've got my pinwheel. You can see I've got 2 vertical, 2 horizontal. I went ahead and I cut some white mats to fit inside the space. So I've got white mats for all my photos. And one of the things I needed to keep in mind when I was putting this whole layout together was I want my opposite page to work with this, okay? This is the 12 by 12 little thing that's up here. And it's the art teacher took these cute pictures and asked the kids, what's your favorite part of what's your favorite feature? What's your favorite part of yourself that you like? And then the kids wrote it out, and Cody wrote, the best part of me is my arms. And so he's showing off his arms. We had him show off his arms again. So I've got this is going to go on my opposite page. So I kind of kept that in mind a little bit. I thought I was going to mat everything or I was going to do it on a black piece of paper. Well, you can see here, I've got some interesting colors to work with, right? I've got the very violet and neon colors over here on the black light photos. And then here we just have some photos from the hallway where he was showing off his art projects. So I had to try to make this work. And this was me furiously going through all of my papers today, grabbing collections I thought would work. So I ended up reaching into Rainbow Rush. This is an old paper set, and I had scraps of it. And you can see here, I did kind of play around ahead of time because I wanted to see how this was going to work. And then it was all trying to find a background paper, which once again, I'm grabbing every 12 by 12 piece that I have that I think remotely goes with any of these colors in here. And I settled on a green. This was out of the Totally Tonals, the first quarter pack that they had. It was in the greens and blues pack. And I settled on this green. So I've got this green paper that I'm going to be using as my background. And then after that, as I mentioned in the directions, you just need 4 1 by 12 strips of paper. And they can match your theme, they can match your colors. Maybe your theme and your colors go together really well. I was all about colors in this particular case. And so it was, you know, mixing and matching my colors to go there. So before we start going to too much of the assembly and everything like that, you're going to want to have your 1 by 12 inch strips. So I am going to go ahead. I need to cut down some paper here. I need to cut. And now I'm having a hard, where did it go? I needed to cut another piece of this blush color. And it got filed away. So I want to go ahead and I'm going to cut another piece of this. I actually folded it wrong. So I need to cut, I'm going to cut 2 pieces of it. So you need 4 strips that are 1 by 12. And they can be my sample that I just showed you with the autumn texture paper. I used 2 strips of 2 different papers. For this particular layout, I am going to be mixing, matching. I don't know for sure. As I'm putting this together, I'm kind of going to be playing with it. The biggest thing to note is they're 1 inch strips. 2 of them have to be that full 12 inch length. If you're really working with scraps and you have a lot of colors you would want to work with, you can work with 1 by 6 inch strips for the other parts, but 2 of them have to be the 6 by 12 or the 1 by 12 so that we can fold them. And once we do the folding, that's pretty much like a lot of the technique part. That this is all about just assembly, finding your colors. So hopefully the directions make sense. And I don't know why I'm having such a terrible time with my screen quality today. It just must not be the day for these things, or maybe Zoom updated something. When you go to fold your 1 by 12 strips, you're going to line it up, center it on the 6 inch. So it's going to be 1/2 inch over on either side. So it's going to be 5.5 over here to 6.5. All right. So there I've lined it up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my strip up here and I'm going to bring it over and I'm going to line it up here on the left side, or excuse me, the right side at the same 6.5. Now, I have already folded one of mine and I can already see I'm kind of making a little bit of a mistake here, because if I were to fold it like this would be my pattern. And I don't want the plaid and the stripe next to each other. So what I need to do is I need to flip this over and work with my solid side up so that when I fold it this way, there is my design. All right. So if you know you've got a certain way you want your pattern, I did not want 2 patterns next to each other since I'm working with patterns and solids. I wanted to make sure that my solid is next to a pattern. The pattern solid up here is going to be next to a pattern. And you just bring it over. I'm going to line it up here at that. I'm up here at 5.5. So 5.5 from the top. There's my 6 inch mark coming down to 6.5. And I'm going to try my best to make it as right angly as possible. Meaning that I want to make sure that I'm nice and straight along the line. Take your time to make sure you get that nice right angle, because it's going to help when you go to align things later. You should see that this angle follows the 45-degree angle if you're using the 13 by 13 mat. And there's my fold. And I've done the same thing with this strip. I'm short on this plaid paper. I have a full 12 by 12 sheet and I don't want to use it again. So the placement, you have your 1 by 12 strip, it's going to center over 6 inches. So here's my 6-inch mark, and that's where I'm going to place the center of my strip. So it's actually going to be over here to 5.5 and 6.5. It centers at that 6-inch mark right here. And I'm going to grab the top piece and I'm going to pull it over to the right edge. And I'm also centering it. So I'm actually going to pull the bottom corner. It's going to come to 6.5 inches. And you fold that edge. And you should have that right angle. So you're going to do that twice with 2 different pieces. And you'll be showing off the different patterns of those pieces. So once we've folded both of these pieces, now we're going to cut the ends at 45-degree angles. So I'm going to grab my trimmer and I'm going to line up. I'm just going to place it in here. I'm going to line this up on the 45-degree line. You can see it right here is my 45-degree line. I'm going to line this up and I'm going to come up to the cut edge. I can see the line that my, the dashed line here. Sometimes your cut edge might be a little bit off. My cut edge is ever so slightly to the right, just like a little smidge to the right. I can see where my actual groove that my blade is making. So that's actually where I'm going to line it up. It is like literally a 32nd of an inch just off to the side. So if you can see where your cut line is, that's where you want to line up. You're going to line up in that cut line. It might be the dashed line. It might be ever so slightly off. I'm going to line up there. And then that should also, you'll see at the bottom, you should also be lined up. If you've done a nice job with your 45-degree angle here, or excuse me, your 90-degree angle, you should also be very close to that cut line here. So you'll cut at the top. I'm going to cut off that corner. And then what I can do is just double check. I can come here at the bottom, holding everything in place, and I can make another cut. So now I have 2 small triangles. I'm going to set those aside. I don't want to throw them away, keep track of them. But you can see there, I've got that cut. Now I'm going to repeat that with my other piece that I've cut already, or that I've already folded. Lining it up at 45 degrees. I'm actually going to real quick check. I maybe got too quick when I was folding this. So I'm going to just double check. You guys should be folding too. And I'm just going to double check. Yeah, I can see here that I'm not quite as, I didn't take that time with this to fold to get that good, nice 90 degrees right here. That's what I want, 90 degrees. Now I'm going to come in and do those cuts on the 45. Line it up here at the 45 degrees. This upper corner is on my cut line. Hold it into place and cut. Now I'll come here at the bottom, should also be in my cut line, and cut it again. Once again, holding on to these small triangle pieces. Now, here is my design. Here's my background paper. I've got 2 pieces cut. I know I want this one to the outside. That's going to be the inside. This one, the overall, everything is real easy to put together. If the challenge that I am doing is that I'm trying to make various scraps of paper work with colors. So if you have a very, keeping it within the collection, you're just mixing and matching, or maybe you're just using two different of the strips, it might be really easy for the rest of the assembly. I'm going to ask you to bear with me as I'm kind of trying to figure this out a little bit, because I don't have a clear set of colors that I know I'm working with. I am going to put my mats, my photos on my mats. My mats, I give you some measurements at the very bottom of the handout that talk about the mat sizes that are used in the handout. And these mats that I'm working with are 5 1/4 long by 3 3/4 inch wide. So the mats in this sample are just a little bit, instead of being 3 1/2, they're 3 3/4. And then I've trimmed my photos down just a little bit smaller to fit on those mats. And I went with white. The reason I went with white is because I wanted to keep it light. I've got some white in my backgrounds of the paper. And I've also got, remember, this little project from school has white mats around the photos. So I'm going to be sticking with white mats. And I didn't go, I just went with, these are 1/8 inch, 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So it's the mats are 1/4 inch bigger than the photos. And I have to say, I use the personal trimmer when I cut things down. And I should show you guys all of my little slivers that I cut off of things, because I don't usually, when I'm not usually just cutting all of the 1/4 inch from one side. I might cut 1/8 of an inch off of one side, 1/8 of an inch off another. So I had all these little shavings that I cut. So I definitely have to, use a guillotine trimmer, the little personal trimmer. I can't do the little slivers like that with either one of those other 2 12-inch trimmers. So I like the guillotine trimmer. I just have to give it a little bit of love. All right, so there's where we're headed. So now I need to figure out, what am I going to come in here with these other colors? I've got some additional strips. There's some blue. I've got some yellow. I could come in with another bit of the 12-inch of the rainbow. I have another piece of it. It fell on the floor. So I've got just some decisions to make on how I want to balance this out. If I put yellow over here, I always feel like I need to have, if I have yellow over here, then I need to balance out the yellow over on this side. Because when I'm looking at this, especially, it's easy to see on the camera, I'm looking to, where's my eye being drawn? Obviously, I want my eyes to come here to the photos, but I need to make sure that when I'm putting on my other pieces here, then I'm not doing anything that is too eye-popping. So like right now, I'm thinking the yellow is a no-go. This, maybe if I were to use, I could cut a little bit lighter strip, because this was off of one of the Rainbow Rush. It was more of a kind of that ombre where it's real intense color at one end, fades to white at the other end. And maybe I could just come in here and cut off a piece that's a little bit not quite as intense. The other option is I could just stick with the stripe and this peachy color with the orange and the plaid, but I kind of like the blue in there. So I'm going to cut another piece of the reddish peachy stripe. So it's another 12-inch section. And I have to make, and I do know that I can cut these extra pieces, I can cut them in half at 6 inches. The 12-inch lengths only needed to be the ones that we folded. After that, everything else can be cut into a 6-inch length, which lets us just play around with the pieces a little bit more. 6 inches. Here, if I just wanted to alternate. And then I just got to keep in mind, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to be trimming this down just a little bit and mounting it on the plaid. So this is the indecisiveness that I always have sometimes, is trying to balance out, what do I want to do? Normally I have this more put together, but I also knew this was literally not going to, well, I say it wasn't going to take me very long, but I say I'm already approaching the hour. So I think I might go with that. I'm looking at it on the screen because I can see the overhead a lot easier. And I think I'm going to go with this. I'm just going to go with this for now because I want to get into cutting the angles. All right. So now what we need to do is, after we've got this all figured out, now we're going to be chopping off 45-degree, cutting these ends at 45 degrees. So if you need to, you can grab a pencil, or and you can mark the corners that you're going to cut. Like I could come in here and I could just put a small pencil mark. I need to cut off this top corner. I need to cut off this corner. Over here, I want to cut off this corner. And over here, I want to cut this corner. All right. The other way you can do it is you can just, when you grab them, make sure that you pick them up by the corner that you want to cut off. So I pick it up by this corner, rotate it, I'm keeping my thumb. I mean, I have it marked, so I know, and I'm just going to cut off at 90 degrees, or excuse me, I'm lining up at 45. I'm going to cut off that corner. And this is just going to slide in next as such. Pick up this corner. And I'm going to cut it off at 45 degrees. I'm just cutting off the triangle. That's all I'm worried about right now. Picking it up. Now this side here gets to be a little crazy because of the way this angle only is one side, and I have my pattern up here. I actually need to flip this over to the other side so that I can cut the right angle off. I've got my finger there. I know this is the corner I want to cut off. So now when I flip it back over, it's going to be fine. It's going to line up just right. Once again, I'm coming in here. That's the corner I want to cut off. I need to flip it over. And trim off that edge. So there we can see it starting to take place there. All right, so now what I need to do is, you can see I've got a little bit of overhang going on here, right? These two pieces, I am going to need to trim those off probably about an inch or so. If I get out my ruler, I can see what I'm gonna, I'm gonna cut off about an inch. So somebody's asking about which corner am I gonna cut? So remember, when I first came in here, I've got just a spare piece here. I had lined up like this, right? I had my square end lined up next here. So I know that I need to cut off this corner because I need to slide it in like such. I know you can't see that, but that's my camera. I don't know why I'm having such a terrible time with the contrast. Like, it's not wanting to stay. It's not happy. Maybe I need to update my Zoom app on my phone. So really what you're going to have to do is, when you're looking at this, you're going to see, I mean, if you need to, what you can do is you could, like, I could just have slid this under, and that would be the reminder. Yep, I need to cut that top. This top piece is going to come off because I want them to match. I want the angles to match. If you're unsure of how to do all the cuts, cut yourself a strip, a piece of paper to practice with. All right, cut a piece of cardstock or a scrap piece of paper, and just practice making sure that those angles are going to line up. All right. I'm glad that things are coming through for you guys because it really looks pretty crazy at my end. Okay, so I'm still holding on to all those triangles that I cut. Now it's time to start adhering. I'm going to be using repositionable adhesive. I've got my T-square right here as well. And for my T-square, what I'm going to be doing is I want to come in about 1/8 of an inch. I'm lining up my green paper. I'm going to take my pictures off right now. I don't need those on there. I had them on there just to help me balance out my colors, but I think we're good with the blues and all those colors. And I'm going to come in here about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to apply some adhesive. When I do my adhesive, I want to make sure I get my corners. Want those to stick down nicely, especially because they are the chiseled corners. You know, we've got that tip. We want to make sure that tip is adhered really well. So when you slide on your page protector or you put your page inside you use a top loading to make sure that it's not going to catch on anything. And I'm coming in about 1/8 of an inch. Lined up there. Now I'm gonna just quick come here and try to do the top as well. For me, really, once I just get this first piece placed, I should be good placing the rest of it. It's the first one that seems to be always a little bit. And of course, as Tessa mentioned, when we're working on camera here, it's a little harder because normally we, you know, really like move our heads around and we don't want to get our heads in front of the camera. So there we go. Now I also know this plaid piece comes in here. So I'll put that in. Since I've got my T-square all lined up here. Come over here to this side really quick, and I'm going to put this blue piece. The outside ones here on this outer edge probably will not need to trim. You will not need to trim that 6-inch length that you cut the edge off of. When we do our next one, you're going to see here, I am going to have to cut it. And it's about 1 inch, maybe a little bit more than 1 inch. The biggest thing, if you are using your T-square, you have to make sure that the paper is situated square on your mat. Otherwise, well, it just doesn't work so well. So make sure you take the time to line up. To line up that paper. And I might just do this one, eyeball it. Yes, that's, you guys, the fuzzy part is the part I don't know. And I'm really sorry about that. I do not know why I'm having such a terrible time with it. I'm not sure if for some reason my connection's not great. Even when I first booted it up, I was having issues with that. So I'm really, really sorry. about that. I'm gonna have to mess around and figure out why it's not as sharp as usual. I'm cutting off about 1 inch. Actually, I'm gonna cut 1 1/8 inch off. Yeah, that 1 1/8 inch is the right. And I'll cut 1 1/8 inch off of this one as well. All right, so there we go. It's pretty much. Depending on what you've got going, you may or may not. I might go ahead and just put these. I don't have the same spacing that the sample had with using the additional triangles. So I may not include those. I'm gonna have to think about that a little bit because I just don't have the same space to put those. I don't think I can put the triangles in. Well, maybe I can put them in without. I can put them in without the I can put them in without the gap, so they're not gonna look like a little tile. And I'll figure all that out. I'll get those placed in there. Yeah. That's gonna work out really, really well. All right, so that's pretty much the gist of my layout there. I will work on that when I'll try to get this second piece put on there as well, so you guys can get an idea to see how this is incorporated. So I can try to make it that 2-page layout. I really don't want to alter this one too much. It's pretty much how the teacher had it, and it happens to be a 12 by 12, and so it might just sit as such. All right, so I'm going to come up here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out why it was so terrible. So I really apologize for that. I'm not sure what was going on there with my my camera. So I will get that figured out. That is pretty much Power Hour. Wow, it's already 6:08. So I have some just quick announcements. Thank you everybody for joining us. This video has been recorded. It will be sent out. I'll actually upload it to YouTube a little bit later. And then the handouts will all be sent back out tomorrow with the link recording. So you guys you'll get an email with that. I'm not sure. It usually comes out in the morning. Tessa sends that out for us, and she's on East Coast. So she gets up nice and early. We'll get that all sent out. Just a reminder, we do have 2 Croptoberfest classes coming. So those are going to be September 28th is our PageMakers class. We're going to make 6 layouts using the premium bundle from the premium customer bundle. And then we are also going to have on Thursday, the 29th, we are going to have a cards class, a card workshop, where we take the project recipe and we use half of the project recipe kit and we make 12 cards. So if you've done our cards in the past, it's a whole new cut guide. It's a whole new set of cards. I do that fresh every time. So that will be fun to do. And then on October 4th, which is a Tuesday, we are doing the Golden Harvest PageMakers class. So that is going to be the next the next PageMakers class. We'll have the Croptoberfest classes the very end of September. The very beginning of October, we're going to have the Golden Harvest class. And then we are going to have, Tessa's going to be doing the Fast to Fabulous, an intro call for the Zoom, it's going to be a Zoom intro call that talks about what Fast to Fabulous is and all that fun stuff. She's going to have that on September 23rd. It's going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern. More details are coming on that. I promise you. I just have to put together the graphic for her. And then she's going to put together the handout. There's my son. And, okay.
Just don't be mad.
Okay. they're going to wrestle, and I shouldn't be mad. So I think that's all of the excitement there. The next page makers class, or excuse me, the next power hour is October 11th. It's a Tuesday. And you guys, please, on the handouts, there is the it'll say, like on mine, you can see it right here. If you post in the group, please post with September 2022 power hour as your hashtag, and you have a week to post in order to be eligible for the prize drawing. So we will have a prize drawing on, let's see, we're 13th. We'll have a prize drawing on the 20th. So please post no later than the 19th, and sometime on the 20th, Tessa or I will do a drawing, and we will have some happy mail that we send out to you. And so I think that's everything that I have for you guys. So thanks so much for joining us. Let me just double check is that if we have, I think I got everybody's questions. Yes, I was warned, guys. I can see right out my front window here into the front yard over to the park. So if they are wrestling, I'll know. Cody can hold his own. He's a big kid. So the Fast-A-Fab, Tessa is going to be doing an introduction, kind of talking about what Fast-A-Fabulous is. She's going to show you some examples. She has some fantastic example albums that she can show you. And then she, that's going to be on the, oh, I have my note. Where's my card? That class is, that intro Zoom call is going to be next Friday, the 23rd at 2 p.m. Eastern. Somebody was asking about the Page Makers class. The Page Makers class, both the Croptoberfest and the Golden Harvest classes will start at 4 p.m. They last about 2 to 2.5 hours. So we start them a little bit earlier, so you West Coast gals don't fall asleep on us. And the card class on the September 29th is a daytime class. I cannot remember the exact time that it starts. All of our classes are always recorded. So if you cannot join us live, or you have to leave early, or you come in late, you will have the opportunity to be able to watch those as a recording, stop and start as you need to, so you never miss anything. We definitely don't want you to. And we know that times can sometimes be hard. Life gets in the way, right? I'm constantly adding things right now to my calendar for school and whatnot for the kids. So those are all the fun things. Everything can be found on our website, meganandtessa.com. All right, everybody have a great night. Have a great rest of your week, and we will see you soon. All right.